Let me start this episode by saying sometimes you feel you do all the work for nothing. For example, I just army crawled into my bedroom, which is where I usually record, because there's 8 people in my house. I'm unemployed. You think that my family has an office? We don't. My husband and I put a desk in our bedroom that we use interchangeably, and he uses it because he works from home, so I typically record when he's not working, but sometimes that's just not always feasible. And he was in a meeting in our room at the desk, and I was just going to record out in the living room, but the microphone was in by him. So I slowly cracked open the door because he's in an on-camera meeting, army crawled across the wood floor, and my knees aren't what they used to be, okay? Let me just say that too. It was painful. Reached up like I was the hand in the Addams Family onto the desk, kind of felt around for the microphone, grabbed it, and pulled it back down with me, then slowly turned, army crawled, killing my knees again, back out of the bedroom, only to have my husband come out 30 seconds later because his meeting ended. Now, these are some of life's moments where you kind of go, why? You know, what purpose did that serve? Maybe it was just meant to be a story. I don't really know. But either way, that's not the intention of this episode. The intention of this episode is to just relate to you a little bit about how life is really tiring sometimes. And on that note, you might hear my 2-year-old son next to me, because he is next to me watching Bluey. I hope it's not too loud. I tried to adjust the volume so you couldn't hear it, but it is the kind of day where you probably would. So I apologize if that's too distracting. But we're just recording with him right next to me. I've never done that before, but it is that kind of day. So buckle up, as one of my stepdaughters says, because this episode is just really about me connecting with you about how tiring life can be sometimes, and to kind of also be your cheerleader with living your dreams anyway, you know, alongside all the tired. And so I'm first going to I'm honestly just going to tell you a little bit about my day. And again, my hope for you is that you can connect, you can relate, you can feel like you're not alone if you're, you know, feeling just exhausted from it all. So let me just say this to start. You know that I'm a big fan of Mel Robbins and the let them theory, okay? Right? Which centers around the fact that we can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. And I'm a firm believer in this theory. Also, how the hell am I supposed to discipline my kids if I can't control other people, right? And sure, you can get technical with the theory and go, you know what, let them throw their tantrum, and then let me calmly respond after breathing deeply and choosing my words carefully. That doesn't always happen as a mom, and I'm going to tell you why. I got up extra early today, okay? I got up extra early because my 13-year-old daughter wanted to join an extra choir. She's already in choir, but she wanted to do like an extracurricular choir that meets in the mornings. And that requires that I drive her there because buses are not running at that time. Well, this choir business starts about 15 minutes before my 5-year-old son's speech therapy appointment. And I have to take my 2-year-old along with my 5-year-old to the speech therapy appointment so that my husband can work. And so with that being said, I've got my 13-year-old in the car along with my 5-year-old and 2-year-old, and, you know, working really hard to make sure all these needs are met, right? That my husband has the quiet space to work, that my daughter gets to do her extracurriculars, because that's one thing you carry if you have a big family, that guilt of, man, I hope I can still give the older ones what they need, even though I'm putting all this energy into the younger ones. You do carry that guilt a little bit. So anyway, bringing my daughter to her choir, and we're about to leave the house, and I don't know if there's anybody out there who's also a parent, especially a parent who lives in a cold climate, Or perhaps you face your own version of this battle in a different climate, and instead of a jacket, it's sunscreen or a hat or something. I don't really know. What I do know is that I currently live in a cold climate, and for whatever reason, tweens are on a jacket boycott. They refuse to wear their motherfucking jackets. And yes, I did use the F word with my 2-year-old beside me. Please don't judge. He doesn't know how to say it yet. The 5-year-old's downstairs. He would repeat it, but he can't hear me. Now, that being said, preteens, my daughter and stepdaughters included, all my daughters, they're all about the same age, do not want to wear their jackets. And they will fight you. They will fight you. Prime example, my 13-year-old comes up from her room wearing shorts and Crocs without socks. Okay, this is the most twisted form of Dr. Seuss you'll ever hear. Crocs, shorts and Crocs without socks. Yeah, I just wrote that. So that's what she's wearing or not wearing, and she's trying to walk out the house without a coat. I promptly tell her to put on some pants, and she says to me, "Oh, why? It's not even that cold out. None of the other kids wear pants." I'm pausing again here because I'm hoping that you see the ridiculosity that I also saw. So I proceeded to ask what I'm sure you would ask in my shoes, which is, you're telling me that kids don't wear pants to school? You know what I mean, Mom. Okay, yeah, I do know what you mean, maybe, but the important thing here is that you know what I mean, and I mean you need to go get some pants. So she does, and meanwhile I'm rushing to get a 2- and 5-year-old out to the car, which is no easy task, slipping on shoes that never seem to fit right, trying to tell my 5-year-old to only take 2 stuffed animals instead of 5, and then he's got his little Cars movie race cars in his pocket, and they're falling out and they're screeching. But anyway, my 13-year-old comes back up the stairs with pants on, but no jacket. And we're running late at this point for the choir event and then the speech therapy. And so I said, "Hey, where's your jacket? Step 2, And she responded to me with, "Oh, I don't know. No other kids wear jackets. Seriously, Mom." Okay, so I had already argued this once. I wasn't going to argue it again. So I said, fine, you're just taking mine, because that's what happens. You end up with Mom's coat if you're not going to take the time to look for yours. So gave her my coat. She reluctantly took it. Did she put it on? Hell no, she didn't put it on. She grabbed it. But I'm too busy desperately trying to usher the 2- and 5-year-old to the car to continue fighting this. So we're all in the car, and I see that my 13-year-old has a blanket, like a fleece blanket that she's covering herself with in the car. And to me, that's pretty sound evidence that she's acknowledging that it's cold. But somehow it makes more sense to bring a blanket to cover up your shorts and your non-jacketed torso. Somehow that makes sense. But jacket? No. So as we're driving, I noticed that my jacket was bunched up on the floor of the car. And I just said to her, "Hey, you're gonna put that on. You're taking it with you into school." I didn't get an answer. I just got I was like, "You are taking that into school." And you can probably guess where I went next. What's the number one go-to for parents of teens and tweens, of like the thing you take away if they're not willing to do something? The cell phone, right? So I said, okay, you know what? You don't take it, your phone's done for tonight. You don't get it at all. Again, she doesn't say anything. So I said to her, you understand? You gonna take the jacket? And this is what my 13-year-old said to me as I'm driving her to her choir event. She looks at me and goes, "Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to decide if it's worth it." And by that, she meant she's trying to decide if defying me and refusing to take the jacket is worth losing her phone for the night. And at this point, I'm well beyond done. So I just said, okay, let's make it 24 hours then. By the time we pull into school, she had just shoved my jacket, my nice jacket, by the way, just balled it up as if it was used newspaper and shoved it in her backpack. Could not be bothered to put it on. I then told her it was a nice jacket and she would spend the evening steaming it if she brought it home with wrinkles. I don't have a steamer. That's not going to happen. But it was all I had left, okay? It was all I had left. Now, let's not forget what this original battle was about, okay? This original battle was about me just asking her to wear a jacket. It's 30 degrees Fahrenheit in Minnesota right now, not to mention the whipping winds, which make it feel like 18 degrees. And somehow, I'm the asshole because I want her to wear a jacket. Fuck me, am I right? So that is my 2-year-old son who has a mouthful of crackers, and he's asking if he can have a turn on the microphone. Finish your crackers, and then you can say hi, okay? Just finish your crackers first. Yep. That's a microphone. So that was just one battle, you know? That was how my morning started. And you know, I could continue to share, again, my feelings on the let them theory. Again, love it. But as much as I appreciate these lessons and theories, I understand, just like you, that they're not so easily done in practice. You can decide for yourself. You know, you can analyze my situation with my daughter and decide if I appropriately used the let them theory. I don't know. You know what I mean? What is that balance as a parent between recognizing what you can control and trying to make sure that your child doesn't develop hypothermia and that the school doesn't call CPS? You know, what's the balance there? You know, the day continued, right? And I'm kind of also trying to find this balance of keeping my 2 boys out of the house and entertained so my husband can work while also not pushing myself, you know, too far. And knowing, you know, maybe you know me well enough by now to recognize that sometimes I do push myself too far, because if I have a goal, if I have a dream, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if I'm bleeding out along the way. But what happens sometimes because of that is burnout, and I push myself too far, and then I find my patience wearing very thin. And so I went on to spend the rest of my day, brought my son to a speech therapy appointment, you know, where he and his brother, my 5-year-old, my 2-year-old, promptly ran around the office playing hide and go seek. Some people find it endearing, and, you know, it is the kind of office where there's also kids who are in occupational therapy for different behavioral and physical needs, and so they are used to kids kind of having a little bit more energy there, but it still is a little bit stressful. So we waited out the appointment, and then I thought, you know what, let's go to the museum. And it's specifically a museum that's designed for children. So kids are allowed to touch things, play with things, you know, really dig into their primal instincts and primate origins. And, you know, it worked for the most part. It worked. But I did have to follow them around there, you know, supervise and stuff. And it's just a lot of energy. You know, there's school groups there. There's other families. I have to use my manners. And I'm also not a super patient person. I think I have my dad to thank for that. We don't do well when people kind of like get in our way. We're tall folk. And I mean, admittedly, I take up a lot of space, but I try not to. And, you know, got long strides. And so I struggle when people are in my way. And, you know, it just got to be a little bit crowded at the museum. And we wrapped up our outing by going to one of my favorite vegetarian restaurants in the St. Paul area. And my 2-year-old proceeded to just let all hell break out and wailed the whole time. And I couldn't even tell you why he was wailing at the restaurant. It had something to do with the fact that he didn't want chocolate milk, but he said that even though he said he wanted apple juice, I got him the apple juice, and then he saw his brother's chocolate milk, and he just was not over the fact that that didn't happen for him. He then proceeded to pull apart his grilled cheese, and it was when it was still hot, so the cheese was still in its melty, flexible form, and then he promptly smeared that cheese on the table. And I think Bluey might be getting a little too close to the microphone, so let me just make that quick adjustment. As you'll notice, my 2-year-old forgot about having a turn. That is the beauty of being able to redirect toddlers. But anyway, when the smeared cheese was on the table, my 5-year-old then squealed and said he hated it, the smeared cheese, and couldn't be bothered to just scoot over. Instead had to wail about the smeared cheese and how it looked like a slug, and just he couldn't eat there. And at this point, we ate what we could. They hardly ate anything. Although, funny moment, it's a vegetarian place, right? But my kids don't necessarily eat vegetarian, just my husband and I do. But at an all-vegetarian restaurant, that's what they got. So there was like a tofu burger type thing, and my son didn't know that when he got his cheeseburger, so he starts eating it and then looks at me, and this is my 5-year-old, and says, "Mom, my burger's complicated." That was actually the one funny moment in the midst of all that. I don't know if any of you out there have ever eaten a complicated burger, but my son has, and so you're not alone there, and if you need to name it, you should. So that wraps up our outing and brings me to shortly before I started recording this, which is coming home and then not even having the energy left to get my son a bowl of blueberries. And frankly, I didn't want to, because I just paid for him to, eat lunch out, and he didn't even really eat it. And instead of, intervening and helping him get some blueberries in a bowl, I just watched, havoc wreaked as he went into the floor, wow, I am tired, went into the fridge, grabbed the blueberries and promptly dropped them on the floor, scattered them everywhere, and then my 2-year-old son hit the bowl out of his hand. So then it, hit the wood floor while my husband was in a meeting, and that led to the frantic, hey, growl kind of whisper that parents do sometimes where they're very frustrated with their children, but they can't yell. And then after that, I promptly gave up and decided that I would just start talking to you instead, because it's one of my favorite things to do. But to circle back to my purpose of this episode, I'm obviously a very inspired person. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of very successful people, most of whom can probably hire nannies to solve all the problems that I have. And so I kind of just wanted to come back down to earth a little bit and let you know that I'm tired too. I don't know what your life is. I don't know what your responsibilities are. Some of them might be very similar to mine. Some of them might be very different. But whatever you're carrying, whatever tasks that you have, I just want you to know that you are not alone if you just feel exhausted sometimes, and if you don't always respond perfectly. As much as I am trying to find my inner peace and embrace the wisdom of all these fantastic folks who I listen to and read about, I have plenty of moments where I'm just tired, where I'm just exhausted, where it's hard to try. And sometimes I don't even try. And when I say try, I mean to employ the things that I'm learning, or, to live my dreams. And you all know that what that is to be a full-time writer, and to move somewhere warm. There are some days where it's no, I'm actually just going to watch Cutthroat Kitchen. By the way, fantastic Food Network show. I watch it on Hulu. I don't have the Food Network, but Cutthroat Kitchen, hosted by Alton Brown. it's hilarious. And Alton Brown has this really dry sense of humor, which I appreciate. Cooking shows are also just fun to watch, right? Because, that is its own form of creative energy. But what's fun about Cutthroat Kitchen is that the chefs who are on it, they're more like everyday chefs. And I mean, to be fair, many of them are often restaurant owners or they're private chefs. They're doing well in their field, right? But they're not like Gordon Ramsay. And they are challenged to make a particular dish, like filet mignon, or sometimes it's something as simple as deviled eggs, and they have to cook it, but might have sabotages thrown at them. And what that could mean is like their fresh ingredients are swapped for canned ingredients, or they have to cook while also carrying a 10-pound weight in their other hand, or they have to cook with one of the chefs that they're competing against, and they can't actually touch their food, but they have to direct the chef they're competing against to cook their food for them. And every episode there's new sabotages, and so they're really creative, they're really fun, and so I highly recommend that show if you've never seen it. It's a fun one. And back to my original point, sometimes I just sit down and watch that, because I've got nothing left and I just need to watch an episode of something, entertaining, but also just goofy. So you're not alone. And all these things that I talk about, right? Like all of these, things that I suggest, right? To help you, live your dreams, to help you confront your own trauma, to help you escape abuse, to help you with whatever journey you're on. Please know that I say that knowing that that's exactly what it is, a journey, and that none of us are going to complete that perfectly. And it's okay if sometimes you just stop and watch Cutthroat Kitchen. It's okay if you sometimes just need to say the F word, even if your 2-year-old is next to you. It's okay to feel like you've lost sometimes, because let me tell you, I feel like I lose with my 13-year-old every day. And by lose, I just mean it's like no matter what I do, I'm just the asshole, you know what I mean? Even though I'm just trying to take care of her. I've taught middle and high school for 10 years, and I always thought, you know what? When my kids get that age, I'll be ready, because I've been teaching teenagers for years. Not the same thing. Not the same thing at all. When you are mom, it is a very different situation. Something happens, hormones change, switches flip, and all of a sudden, I'm not mommy anymore, but I'm just straight up Satan, okay? Satan in her eyes, and that's just what it is. Now, if you want to get biological with it, it has something to do with like teen and adolescent development, needing to like develop their independence and know that they can separate from the herd, successfully. Okay. Well, that's all well and good for bison, but with humans, they always come back to the herd and make a request for $20 or a sleepover after basically just telling you to go fuck yourself because you told them to wear a jacket. So it's not so easily said and done when you're a human person. So I know you're doing the best you can, just like I'm doing the best I can. Be patient with yourself. If you have kids, I hope if you have kids, you feel like you're not alone, with this episode. If you're exhausted and doing the best you can, and still feeling like you're failing, you are not failing. I can promise you're not failing, because the same 13-year-old who basically flips me off every morning, I've also noticed has like a schedule in her room of like all of these goals that she wants to reach. Like she wants to teach herself to run 3 miles. And when I go to my dance class, she comes with me and she'll run on the treadmill. She also is the kid who, for Valentine's Day, a lot of schools will do like Valentine's grams and things like that. And for Valentine's Day, she bought each one of her teachers, even the ones she doesn't necessarily like. She bought all of them Valentine's grams and wrote a nice note with it. I like what kid does that, you know? It's very sweet. And I certainly am not a perfect person, but I am a person who sets goals for myself and who tries to live a life where I'm helping people or brightening their day. By the way, if you heard my 2-year-old sniffling in the background, I hope that, you know, snot wad really added some magic to this profound thing that I'm saying right now. But in all seriousness, the same daughter who's kind of sassy to me is also learning from me. And I see that she is becoming a really kind person. And she is practicing the values that I am trying to teach her and often feeling like I fail at. So something that you'll hear a lot of inspirational people say is the best way to teach your kids or to inspire people is to live that inspiration for yourself. You know, back to Ed Milet's quote of the best lessons are caught, not taught. And I can see that even though I'm struggling with my daughter daily, she is learning from me and she is becoming a really good person who cares for people. And you have to take time to hold on to that because that's what keeps you going. So I hold on to, you know, what her teachers told me at conferences, which was a couple specific phrases of, I wish I could clone her, you know. She got me a Valentine's gram and I couldn't believe she did that. It was so sweet. You have to hold on to that, you know, as a parent. And even if you're not a parent, if there's people who you're trying to help and you feel like you're getting nowhere, hold on to those little moments. As you heard, you know, my lunch outing with my 2 sons today was kind of a fuck NATO. But in the midst of that, you know, when my 2-year-old got apple juice and wanted chocolate milk instead, my 5-year-old actually gave him the chocolate milk like oh, here you go. That never happens, especially amongst siblings that are that close in age, where the other one just says, you know what? I got you. Here you go. And it was like a genuine, I'm going to give you this. So I had to hold on to that moment too. It might not seem like much if you feel like the odds are stacked against you, but I promise you, when you hold on to those little moments, they really are the thing that keep you going. But again, you're not alone if you just feel like you're getting flipped off by the world right now. And it's okay to, you know, learn and practice new theories and inspirations imperfectly. That's the only way any of us can practice them, is imperfectly. And if there's one thing that I've learned from how I feel right now, it might just be that I've pushed myself a little bit too much with trying to schedule too much with my kids, and that maybe I should slow down. And on that note, I have a date with Alton Brown because this little 2-year-old next to me actually fell asleep as I was recording this. And naps have been a battle for him lately. So see, magic fucking happens, man. All you gotta do is start talking a lot and your kids will be bored enough by your voice that they'll just nod off. I'm really grateful for you. And in the spirit of our new goodbye, I would like to say, thanks for coming.